everyone, my dear viewers. In this video, we follow real-life moments where Americans encounter a completely different mindset. One where problems are solved without strict rules, without certified procedures, and without asking for permission. And somehow everything still works.
I was standing in a roadside workshop in rural Australia when an American snapped, "You can't fix that like this." The mechanic didn't even look up. Already did. The engine started instantly. No drama. No checklist. Just results. The American stared like reality had glitched. Because nothing broke. Nothing failed. And somehow, that made it worse, not better. I was helping a mate repaint a fence when an American tourist walked past and stopped dead. "Where's your primer?" he asked. My mate shrugged. "Don't need it." The guy blinked. "You absolutely do." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through instructions like he was about to audit us. My mate dipped the brush, painted directly over old wood, smooth strokes, no hesitation. "It won't last," the American insisted. My mate stepped back. "It lasted last time." That didn't help. The American started explaining surface adhesion, weather exposure, proper layering. Meanwhile, we finished half the fence. No peeling. No drama. Just paint doing what paint does. The guy looked at it like it was temporary success hiding inevitable failure. Like reality hadn't caught up yet. That's the pattern. It's not that things don't work, it's that they work without permission. And for some people, that's more unsettling than failure itself. Because if something works outside the system, then maybe the system isn't the only way. And that idea doesn't land as curiosity. It lands as discomfort. I was at a small boat dock when a rope snapped loose from a cleat. Nothing serious. Just needed tying again. I grabbed it, looped it twice, secured it. Done. The American beside me froze. "You just tied it?" I nodded. He stared at the knot like it offended him personally. There are certified marine knots for load-bearing situations. "It's holding," I said. He crouched down, inspecting it like a forensic case. "That's not the issue. It's about reliability." The boat didn't move. The rope held perfectly. Still, he looked uneasy. "What if it fails under pressure?" I pointed at the water. "It's been tied like that for years." He shook his head slowly, like I'd missed the entire point. In a small grocery store, the fridge door wouldn't close properly. The owner wedged a folded cardboard box under the hinge. Fixed instantly. The American customer nearby stared. "You need a technician." The owner smiled. "Now it closes." The American frowned harder. "That's not repair. That's improvisation." The fridge hummed quietly, perfectly cold, not caring about the difference. He stood there longer than necessary. There could be long-term consequences. The owner shrugged. "There aren't." The American opened the door, closed it, tested it like he wanted it to fail. It didn't. That seemed to bother him more than if it had. Because failure would have proven his point. But success? That just complicated things.
Hey. At this point, I think nothing could surprise me anymore. I was wrong.
Here's where it flips. It's not about fixing things anymore, it's about control. One system says, control the process, guarantee the result. The other says, if the result works, the process already proved itself. And when those collide, you don't get agreement. You get quiet tension that nobody can resolve. I watched an American argue with a barista because the receipt printer was broken. "How do I expense this?" he asked. The barista said, "Take a photo." He froze. That's not official. The coffee was already in his hand. Paid. Done. But he stood there, stuck, because the transaction didn't exist in the right format. You need documentation, he insisted. The barista nodded. You have coffee? That answer didn't help. He explained corporate reimbursement systems, audit trails, verification processes. The barista just made another drink for someone else. Life moved on. The American stayed behind, trapped in a moment that had already finished for everyone else. At a campsite, a generator stopped working. A local hit it lightly with a wrench. It started immediately. The American watching nearly jumped. You can't just hit machinery. The guy shrugged. Worked, didn't it? The engine ran smoothly. No smoke, no noise. Just power restored with one small impact. That's not a fix, the American said. That's luck. The local leaned back. Been lucky for 10 years then. That answer didn't land. Because if it's consistent, it's not luck anymore. But accepting that would mean admitting the method worked, even if it ignored everything he believed about how things should work. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Because the argument isn't logical anymore, it's philosophical. One side sees rules as protection. The other sees results as proof. And neither side can fully convince the other because they're not debating facts. They're defending entire ways of thinking. Late at night, I saw a flickering streetlight. A local climbed a ladder, twisted the bulb slightly, and it stopped flickering. Simple. Done. The American nearby whispered, "That's not safe." The street went quiet again, perfectly lit. But he kept looking up, like the light might betray us at any second. You could have been electrocuted, he added. The guy shrugged. Wasn't. That answer didn't comfort him. Because risk, in his world, doesn't disappear just because nothing happened. It lingers. Invisible. Waiting. And that made the calm feel almost eerie, like something had been ignored instead of solved.
What do you think? This last one, I still don't fully understand.
I watched someone fix a wobbly table in a cafe by folding a napkin under one leg. The American at the next table leaned over. You should report that. The waiter nodded politely. Didn't move. The table stopped wobbling completely. Coffee stayed still. Problem gone. But the American kept glancing at it like it was a ticking issue. That's temporary, he said. The waiter smiled. Everything is. That answer hit weirdly hard. The table didn't wobble again. But somehow, that didn't count as success. Because it wasn't official. It wasn't recorded. It just worked. And for him, that wasn't enough. Notice the pattern again, outcome versus validation. If something works but isn't validated, does it count? In one system, yes. In the other, no. And that gap is where all the tension lives. I saw a car with a loose mirror. The driver adjusted it manually and drove off. The American nearby shook his head. That's illegal where I'm from. The car drove perfectly fine, mirror steady. No issues. Just movement. But he kept watching it disappear like he expected consequences to follow it down the road. There should be a fine for that, he added. I asked why. He paused. Because it's not properly fixed. But it was fixed, just not officially. And that difference mattered more to him than the fact the mirror wasn't moving anymore. At a small workshop, tools were scattered everywhere. No labels. No order. Yet everyone knew exactly where everything was. An American visitor looked overwhelmed. How do you track anything? Someone asked. Why would we? He didn't laugh. Because for him, that question didn't make sense. What if something goes missing? He asked. Someone pointed across the room. Then we ask. It sounded too simple. Too fragile. But it worked. Always had. And that quiet reliability without structure felt almost suspicious to him. This is the core tension, trust versus control. Systems reduce risk by enforcing structure. But they also assume you can't trust the environment. When something works without that structure, it feels wrong. Even if it's not. I watched someone fix a leaking pipe with tape and a clamp. Water stopped instantly. The American nearby stepped back. That's a liability nightmare. The pipe stayed dry. Completely stable. But he looked at it like it was temporarily pretending to be fixed. You need a licensed plumber, he insisted. The guy wiped his hands. I just was. That answer didn't land. Because identity, in one system, comes from certification. In the other, from outcome. And those don't translate easily. At a rural event, a generator powered everything: lights, speakers, food stalls. It had visible scratches, taped wires, patched panels. The American guest looked nervous. This shouldn't be running. But it powered the entire event without a single issue all night. He stood near it the whole time. Watching. Waiting. Expecting failure. It never came. And by the end, he looked more confused than relieved. Because nothing going wrong didn't confirm safety, it just delayed the moment he believed would eventually happen. And that's the final shift. When your worldview expects failure without rules, success starts to feel temporary. Not real. Not stable. Just delayed consequences. I once asked someone, what matters more, the method or the result? He didn't answer immediately. Then said, the method ensures the result. I nodded. But what if the result already happened? He didn't respond. Because that question doesn't have an easy answer when both sides are right in completely different ways. Because in one world, systems create safety. In another, experience does. One minimizes risk before action. The other adapts after it. Neither is completely wrong. But when they collide, it doesn't look like debate. It looks like confusion. And maybe that's the real shock, not that things work differently, but that they work at all, without asking for permission.
Hey, my dear friends, did you like these stories? If so, like and write in the comments. What topics you would like to hear the next stories on? Thank you. Bye bye, my friend.